again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Koberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Brian Koberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Pride, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
Just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. I'm Daniel, still in my Airbnb, hopefully just for a few more days. I hope the sound is a lot better. I worked on it since the last time. I moved myself out of that little room and into this larger room and hoping that worked. So let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Hit the like button if you can. And we have a great show for you guys tonight. Before we get into it, I just kind of want to remind you guys that I have another channel, and I wanted to bring that up real quick. Let me pull that up. So it's called Married to the Hobby, guys. I have a video that's out. We just hit 300 subscribers. We're on our way to 500. Guys, do us a favor and go check it out. It's Married to the Hobby. We're on the vlog. Here I am working on my car. This is when we went to Fredericksburg. You know, things of that nature. Go check it out. I'd appreciate it. And give us a subscribe. But tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about the Nancy Guthrie case. And I have a special guest that's going to be joining us who was or is boots on the ground type of social media type journalist who's was out there. And I want to get his perspective and have, just a conversation about the case and maybe some thoughts and theories going back and forth. And so without further ado, let's bring in our special guest, Alex from Criminal Network. How you doing, Alex?
Blessed, man, blessed. I'm excited about that, man. I was like, I'm honored that you even asked me. Like I told you, I was like, as soon as you hit me, I was like, I hit you right back. That way, I'm professional. You know what I mean? So I appreciate it, man. And yeah, I'm here to talk about Nancy. I love it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so before we get into it, and before we get into Nancy's case, Criminal Network, the interesting title. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into true crime.
I've probably been into true crime, I don't know, over 15 years. I was just, the John Benet Ramsey case got me into it. And then I kind of drifted over to the Delphi, and then now the Guthrie. So really, I kind of just really focused on 3 cases, but now I'm like opening up my horizons kind of, because I'm following what other people are, what's going on, This right here just is hard to step away from,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, Nancy Guthrie, she disappears. How far is that from where you are, like before or where you are at now? I know you were out there. Are you local to Tucson or did you have to travel?
Local. Yeah, local. It's about 9 miles, which doesn't sound very far, but it takes about 30 minutes to get there, just how the roads are here. You know what I mean? So it's, it's an expensive Uber, but, I like to support my local Uber drivers too, So, but it's still in Tucson. They're just where she lived is just more in the foothills, Catalina foothills, where there's a lot of really, really nice houses in those neighborhoods.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And
a neighborhood that you wouldn't think something like that could happen, and if it does, you'd think that there would have been answers, at least in this day and age. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I 100% agree. I think that for there not to be answers now is troubling. I think there's enough information just based on what we're looking at to get a starting point on a potential suspect. Like for one, I think this guy's, very techie. I think he's left-handed. I think that this was more fantasy than anything else. But, we'll get into that here in a minute. Being that you're local, this case spread really quick based on who Nancy's daughter is, Savannah, and her relationship to to the media and to being a high profile person. And so we all heard about it. Probably, I think I may have heard about it the evening of this happening. How soon was it getting out into local media? Was it something that was instant because it was a local case? Was media about, reporting on Nancy's disappearance right away?
Yeah, it was a quick jump. In other words, at least locally, I can't speak for everywhere, but here it was a pretty big deal. You know what I mean? Big enough deal that the next day I drove out there, and that was I showed up the second day and kind of just was parked. And if you drive that whole street, there's not one sheriff and not one cop. It was all media, not even in her driveway, nothing. So I'd stop and I'd ask certain media places. I'd be like, "Is there any like a search organization or something I'd like to donate my time to?" And then they were all looked at me like, "Huh?" So I started searching that day, and so I even started going behind the houses there allegedly, and I took pictures in the wash. But and I wasn't live, but I took pictures and I posted all of them, and they're still up there. And there's faulty stuff all the way around it. You're going to find a lot of weird stuff. If you're going to cuss here, but you can find a lot of crazy stuff in those washes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everywhere you go. So some stuff can really feel like it's something.
So there was quite a bit of people by the very next day when you went out there. It was already out there.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. That's interesting. Yeah. And
okay.
You were out there at night, correct? You stayed out there throughout the night. Now, one of the questions that I had was the house that's facing. Let me pull up an image real quick. Let me pull this image up, and here it is. So,
big shout out to Drunk Turkey Clan over there, man. Thanks for letting me in. I don't want to read the chat. I don't want to be like, "Hey, screw him." Hey, we're talking about Nancy. Once it becomes about me or you, it's no longer about Nancy, right?
I agree. Hey, and let's get the likes up too. 699 folks here. Let's get the likes up.
Hit the like button.
So we have this image here, and these lights are on in the back on this house. These lights are always on. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's one of the things that I was wondering, because one of the things that I've been pondering back and forth is whether or not this image was taken the same night as the image or the video that we have. I'm like 50-50 on it. Monks did found a great piece of information that this cactus here isn't the same as in one of the other images. Let me see if I can pull that up.
It was the 11th, I promise you. Yeah,
it may have been. The only thing about it being so far away, see
right.
here it's where it's kind of bending this way, so it looks like it's different, but so are these pots. Now, the only problem with it being so far away is Google Nest, without a subscription, only holds on to information for about 3 hours. So it was like a miracle that they were able to. Yeah, true. It's true.
I'm just saying, I think everything's in the cloud, really. You just need a search warrant to get it,
Right, and perhaps that's true. And obviously they were able to pull this footage more than 3 hours before, since she had been reported missing, and they had the footage and contacted Google. So they were at least capable of doing that. So that is a fair point.
Yeah,
but
Google wasn't happy about that either.
Yeah,
because they opened up a door showing that they do have stuff in the cloud. So that's why they didn't make news stations should have jumped on it. But really, Google was like, nah, because it just shows that what they're telling us is that no, we could still go grab what we need from the cloud. You just need a federal search warrant.
Yeah. Right. No, and I agree. I mean, you're probably right there. They probably could go further back. However, if this image came out at the same time as the video, and so if it was the 11th, they were able to go through quite a bit of information and evidence at the same time, a lot of footage to find the image on the 11th for one, and also in relatively a short period of time after collecting this footage, because they put it out at the same time. So both of those things would have had to have been discovered relatively quick. And I'm not saying that's not possible. I'm not sure how likely it is. Now, it could be a different night. It could be the 11th. If it is, I think that leaves possibility for more evidence and the possibility for more things to come out when he does get caught. How confident are you in this investigation and that they're going to find this guy?
Within the last probably few days, I think they really are putting it together. We just don't see it. I think if the FBI, okay, so February 10th, they released this video.
Right.
If the FBI needed help after that, something would have came out, and they would have been like, hey, well, in other words, they're still having, I'm not saying that's how it works. I'm just saying how I picture this. I feel like they got what they needed with this. You know what I'm saying? And I also feel, I don't know if you saw that part where it cuts out. Why do we not see that? I think there's someone else there. I don't know. Of course, that's just me speculating. But let me tell you something about can we go back to the other picture, the 31st, the one I say is from the 11th?
Yeah. Absolutely.
The crazy thing about this one is when you do a chat GPT on here, and you do like a search and all that on it, on maybe 3 different engines, that's not he's not wearing a ski mask, and it's not a balaclava. That's his hoodie. And they say that because of the infrared is why you can't, if it's in, is why you don't see I know that sounds crazy, but I'm bringing it up so that way other people can ask about it, because that's what you keep telling me,
So it's possible.
How about this? I always look at it too, like, what's the reward that we get if we find out if it was 11th or if it isn't? What can we take with the information with that? In other words, like, is it a rabbit hole worth going? Like, I think it's the 11th because I posted it on February, somewhere early on my X, and I said it had to be the 11th because they already had people coming out saying, no, that's the FBI did that. They took the backpack off and all that so that way they could see the form of his body. I go, bullshit. Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
So there's probably a press conference and something else that the FBI released that's from the 11th. But I mean, what I'm saying is, let's just say it isn't the 11th. What do we do with that information? But the fact that it's could be, I think it was a different night. That's all, me personally.
Well, I mean, it very well could be. The only thing about it is if this person is taking a pretty big risk, thinking that, because the assumption would be that, if this person doesn't know Nancy right now, there's some speculation that this person could know Nancy fairly well. But if this is somebody who is somebody we don't know of, right? Somebody who's not been named yet, kind of like Brian Koberger, when he got arrested, it was quite a bit of a surprise to everybody. Nobody knew who he was.
True.
I tend to lean that that's what we're going to probably end up finding out in this case as well, especially if they have DNA with that they're doing genealogy on, because if you have a suspect in mind, you don't need to do the genealogy. In order to create a genealogy, you need an ST profile.
Yeah,
and
I'm good at that. I know about all that stuff too. You're right. But
yeah.
The thing is they would have already had all that by now. They know how to intermix. They know how to separate DNA. And then genetic genealogy is me and you can do it. If you've ever put up something on GEDmatch, like you could post it up there and find your own 4th and 5th cousins like that. So what you said, I don't think they would be going to do that if there was something left behind that they were trying to compare it to, is what you're saying, right, too?
But what I'm saying is that they wouldn't need to go through that if they had a suspect in mind. So, for instance, if they had a suspect in mind, all they have to do is go and get their DNA. Even if it's
genetic. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. All you got to do is follow him. He throws a can or what Rex Huerman did, threw a piece of pizza out. You grab the pizza. You then match that to what you have there, and you bypass the whole genetic tree thing. So if they're doing the genealogy thing, and if the DNA that they have ends up coming back, if that ends up being the bridge to catching the suspect, is that they have DNA in that house somewhere, and that DNA is what catches them, then that person, we don't know who that is today. I mean, that's all that means. Because then there wouldn't be any point.
Yeah, me personally, I don't think the DNA is even part of the case. I don't think after all the steps they took to do this, I don't think they left behind nothing. Why would they have left anything behind? And Why wouldn't they left someone else's behind? I've heard of cases like that where people bring someone else's hair. Like this.
Well, I mean, the guy had a mouth light, so he had a mouth light in his
Right.
mouth, and
It wasn't hot that night.
it wasn't hot. But I mean, you're breathing on that. You have to take that out eventually. That's touching your saliva. You're getting saliva on your hand. There should be DNA there now. Maybe perhaps, and I've theorized this, that maybe perhaps in that backpack of his, he's got a Lysol spray or something, and he's going back. I mean, right,
or a machine that can detect and remove DNA.
I mean, possibly. He was in there for a very long time. And so, you know, whether it's bleach or some of that nature, but, you know, if he is somebody like that, ends up being the case that he's not known to who we are, he's taking a pretty big chance here, because just because Nancy maybe didn't watch this live or happen live, she could have seen this the following day on her phone, you know, if she had a subscription. And then, you know, this could flow with plans. 1, security could be buffed up. 2, she could leave. 3, law enforcement's now going to be informed that there's a perpetrator around there with a mask, you know, wandering around her house. And so I think that makes things quite a bit dangerous to do. Now, what I think he's doing is, and this kind of goes back to my theory that this guy is kind of techie, is, I mean, if we look at his position, his left leg is forward, and so is his left arm. His right leg is back, and so is his right arm. That's not a position of walking. Nobody walks that way. That's a stationary position. Plus, his knees are bent quite a bit. This guy is ready to bolt. This guy is in a position that if something happens in front of him, he's going to turn around and leave. You know, kind of like a defensive backpedaling, ready to turn around.
Yeah.
Now, why would he be doing that? What is he looking at? I think he's looking at the Nest camera. Did you know that on the Nest camera, that once it starts to record you, there'll be a green light. But once somebody actually picks up the feed, the light will start blinking. So somebody can tell whether or not somebody's watching the feed or not.
Outside?
Yeah, from outside.
That's not very bright. That's crazy. What the hell?
It is. It is. And so to me, that goes to tell me, like, well, what kind of person would know that? Somebody who has one, person who sells them, you know, maybe they work at Best Buy or some of that nature, or somebody that competes against them, like a door-to-door security salesman, you know, something like that, because those are the guys that would know about the blinking light. And so
that's amazing. Because if you know that, you could do a lot with that. Yeah, that's crazy.
And then Monks, he realized that even in this image here, because of the glare here on his eyeballs, this suspect never takes his eyes off the doorbell. And you might wonder, why is he not taking the eyes off the doorbell camera? Well, now that we know this, that if it starts to blink, somebody's picked up the feed, that's probably why he never takes his eye off the doorbell camera. He's monitoring it the whole time. So even when he walks to the left, which this tells me even more that the video that we see outside is all a show, which is interesting. There's no blood out on the floor, so this happened before Nancy was pulled out of the house.
Correct.
And so, like, I mean, I used to be a police officer very, very long ago, and I investigated crimes. I've seen a lot of videos of burglars and perpetrators and things of that nature approach a home. Never have I seen one approach a home with such calmness, such callous. You know, even the most hardened of criminals approach kind of
how to do. Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? And so, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on well, first on his position to leave right here? Do you think that's what he's doing? And what do you think about the doorbell camera?
I never really looked at the left hand, left foot. Yeah, because that's not a normal standing position or a walking position. You know what I'm saying? It's none of those. But I do want to go back a little bit, only because it's kind of important. Is the January 11th, January 31st, and January 24th are very crucial, because all the FBI asked all the neighbors about those specific dates. And that's important. So that's why you know that was probably the 11th. And that's why Nanos had to back down from it. Because, he says a lot of stuff. And then people are like, it's why they're embarrassed about that guy, Anyway, it's ain't about Nanos. But, so anyway, I take those dates in other words, those all go back to a Sunday, if that makes any sense, where, like you're saying, what if he does work and then he has the weekends? I don't know. Or a local, like construction workers around there.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting that they are all on Sundays. That is interesting. Shows a pattern.
And remember, she played mahjong on Fridays usually. And yeah, go ahead.
Now, here's the thing, though. There's more than one camera out there in that neighborhood. For him to go out there that many times, you would think that they would have a video of his camera somewhere, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, here, let me jump in. So I can't tell you how long ago, but Juanita, a friend of mine, we're sleuthing around. She spotted a camera. So we went to this person's house, and long story short, he's like he has high clearance and he knows all about cyber shit, like IT stuff that I don't know about. Anyway, what he said is that law enforcement had been to his house 12 different times, FBI probably 8 times. And what he said was like kind of weird because number one, they came too late where they couldn't, when they were asking for January 11th footage, by then it was already gone. You know what I mean? Even though he knows how to do all that stuff. But so anyway, the reason they came to his house is because there was a vehicle that came by his house early that morning of the 31st and was suspicious. Well, there's two, I don't have the map or the times with me, but maybe 1:41, there was a vehicle going to Nancy's. It's right there. It's almost like really close. And then one leaving at 1:47. There's no vehicle. I was there from 2 to 5 in the morning, at least 2 times, just walking the street, searching, doing whatever I could do. Not one vehicle goes by. Even in the midst of her missing, there's no vehicles that go on those streets. So every vehicle is important. And then, the Kia that they had with Fox. Well, anyway, that's like 0.9 miles away from Nancy's house, but really it's about 2.5 miles because you got to do all these little turns. You got to cross Campbell. This route that I'm talking about is, I could present a picture, right?
Yeah. And so the Kia was what's the word I'm looking for?
The cops never took it. They sent the footage to Fox. Fox put it out, and then the FBI went to their house. Yeah, because they wanted to help, but but FBI cops, nobody reached out to them. But I'm gonna grab this real quick. So it makes more sense. That's all.
And guys, please be respectful in the chat. I'm not gonna, even if you put a super chat, if it's rude, I'm not gonna put it up here, guys. Let's be nice. Alrighty. And so, bring that up. Let me pull this one down. And here we are. Okay,
so the red, see the teardrop up at the top? That's Nancy's house. Yeah. Gotcha. This is hella ghetto, but it was just something I put together real quick. But anyway, so with the camera, but it was kind of like, hey, you get the point, right? So anyway, that's not the actual picture of the truck, but it was a dark blue or charcoal gray pickup. I don't know what if it was a Chevy, what kind, king cab, short bed. And so this is the time. So at 1:34 a.m., vehicle left to right. So there's a camera that faces all the way right there where Camino Cresta, see where it says right here, Camino Cresta, it goes to Via Entrada. That's the main, if you're going to have an escape route, that's the route you're going to take right there. You barely see any houses on the right. There's a big island all the way down the middle of it so it separates the road. And it goes all the way down to River Road. You know what I mean? And being that, so the law enforcement went to this guy's house, and it was Tucson PD, Pima County Sheriffs, and the FBI, and they all came at different times, and they all asked for the same stuff. So they were there. So they all asked for the same stuff. So it was kind of like disorganized. But then Tucson was taken off the case, and Pima Sheriff, I don't know if they went back there, but that's when the FBI kept coming back, asking for any more footage. Only because that was a very possible escape route. Whether it was or wasn't, I don't want to say that's exactly what happened, because, I mean, none of us really know, right? I don't remember one pointed out like that, like, oh, no, I know. So to me, this looked like 134. You go back right up there to Nancy's. It could have been a drop, because for 41 minutes in the house, I don't think someone would have left their vehicle parked in the driveway. I don't know how you feel about that. But.
Well, I think that the vehicle was, well, you know, I agree to a certain extent on that part. You know,
house, he's nosy, and he'd be able to see everything right there.
Right.
You know.
Right. You know, to me,
I always wondered why they didn't use the garage. You know what I mean? It would have been the most efficient, quickest. Nobody would see you, but they didn't. You know what I mean? Or we would have known the trigger, because it's a smart garage. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, the only other thing that I can think of as far as why they may be looking also at those dates is, it seems that the night that Nancy disappeared, that there was some connectivity issues. Some neighbors had reported that their Wi-Fi had gone out. Did you hear that also?
Mm-mm. I talked to a lot of neighbors, and then this one specifically, he said there was no outages that night. Okay. Whether that's true or not, or whether they used a jammer or not, I don't.
Yeah, because one of the things that bothers me is the fact that, you know, they got two different warrants, one for Daly, one for Carlos, and both of those guys drive different vehicles. One of them has a big, you know, sticker on the side of it, and the other one's a Range Rover. They don't look alike. Now, I understand why you would want to search all their vehicles regardless, but you would think that they would have, I would think that if a judge is giving you a warrant for like a truck and there's an insignia on the side of it, that there should be video of that, don't you think?
Right.
And so that made me question whether or not they had a picture of the vehicle, because I don't understand, if they do, why haven't they disclosed, we're looking for this type of vehicle? You know what I mean?
Exactly. I agree 100%. And that's why people get mad that when I was able to go to Nancy's house, is that we don't know of any vehicle that has left the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So this is ground zero. And I'm not saying I'm going to be the one that solved it, but it's close. Feels close to home.
It's possible. You know, I mean, that's one of the things that I thought of, is they don't have a video of him leaving, and I wonder why.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, hey, Daniel, I've walked those routes. Every one of the houses in that neighborhood have multiple cameras, not just one, multiple. Because, like, not even to put Nancy's house down, but it's really nice, but it seems like every other one was built way after hers and newer and more modern. You know what I'm saying? Where they all got cameras, bro. How did they not see a vehicle leaving? Even supposedly the local CFA neighborhood watch has cameras.
Yeah.
How do we not know a vehicle? Unless they're wrapping the case up. I don't know.
You know, I would have thought that, but, you know, it's been over 5 months now. And it seems like they're, you know, with Brian Enton, he's reporting, it's kind of what I think that they're at, which is they're nowhere closer today than they've been a couple of weeks ago. You know, I think that they're waiting on the DNA and hoping that a needle comes out of the haystack in there. But by the sound of it, it sounds like there's a lot of transfer type DNA, which is confusing to me because, like as I mentioned, he has a mouth light. You know, he has to take that light in and out of his mouth eventually in there. I doubt that he just walked around with his mouth open that way. If he did, he's breathing and saliva's coming out. And so it's shocking that they don't have either saliva DNA in there, and or that, given the amount of time that he was in there, that they don't have an abundance of the same unknown DNA. And that's concerning to me.
No. See, I never looked at it that way, but that's 100% right. I get it. See, I never thought of those 41 minutes. Of course, I knew he had a bite. I didn't think he would be, like, in other words, if he was sweating, he wasn't going to be doing it on the doormat. But like you're saying, he's not going to have that in his mouth for 41 minutes.
No way.
That's right. So I get you. I got you, man.
Yeah, so he had to take it out somewhere. I mean, even there's got to be DNA somewhere in there. But the fact that he's in there for 41 minutes and there's not the same unknown DNA in a few different places is concerning, because if there was, then you wouldn't need years to figure this case out. You would be focusing in your genealogy on one single DNA, the one that has the abundance, and targeting that person as a potential suspect. But it sounds like they have just samples with multiple people. But the thing is, Nancy got in an Uber that night. God knows how many unknown DNA transfers that she got from sitting back there. You know what I mean? And to go to your question about where do I think he parked, I do think he parked in the driveway. If we look at the way where he's walking,
the side one, the one that goes around, because she has like two driveways.
The side one.
The side one over here. Okay.
Yeah, because look, this is his first step onto the sidewalk. You can see the stepping rocks here in the background. So his first step is on the border. His second step, which is weird because it's like he's going this direction to the right, but his foot crosses way over. So to me, I think he's trying to hide something. Probably his gait. He probably has a weird gait, and he's trying to hide that by overstepping to the side. And so, but he's going this direction from the left, right? And then the third step, and then 4 steps, he's on the pavement, on the porch. Now, here's an aerial view. This is the rock, the stepping stone here in the background. So his first step was around right here. So he's coming this direction, probably from this window. Now, there's a rock wall right here that goes around that would have made it very difficult for him to have approached it, even with a light in his mouth, from any of these directions. From right here, from right here. The only direction that he could have came comfortably would have been from right here. Parked right where this vehicle is, which from what I understand, this bush here would give him the most concealment. From what I understand is even the bushes in the front don't conceal as well as this one right here.
Good point.
Is that accurate? I know you've been out there.
Very accurate.
And so
it's hard to even see the garage area for the most part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's why. Yeah.
So I definitely 100% think that the guy parked here, was blocked here, and came this direction. Probably checked all the windows. But the one thing that bothers me about this is he didn't have to do any of that. The back door is supposedly the where the let's see if I have it. The back door was propped open. Now, most burglars or intruders, their entry point and their exit point is the same. And so for him to have propped open the back door, one, that kind of tells me it was more than likely one perpetrator. If you have to, you don't need to prop open the door. You know, one person can go and open it. If you have to and you're needing to prop open the door, then you can carry her out. I don't think she was carried. The aspirated blood that was on the floor, that was her face down without a gag. And so you don't carry people that way, face down. It would be uncomfortable for the person that you're carrying and uncomfortable for the two people that are trying to carry her. You would carry her from probably under the armpits and then somebody from the legs. And so she'd be faced up and you wouldn't get that aspirated blood on the ground. So, and two, I think that if there was 2 people, they probably could have controlled her a lot better so that there wouldn't have been blood and that stuff on the ground. But he left the back door open.
Multiple then? So that way I know. So you feel there's only one? Because you were saying techie and all that. Because to me, I think there's at least 2. No matter what, I feel there's the porch guy and the Bitcoin guy in my head. You know what I mean? That's kind of like how I'm attacking it. Only because
they're the same.
You think and there can be the same too. Yeah, I'm just saying. I just feel it's 2 different skill sets, 2 different people. Just like how you said, how cold he was. They know what they're about to do. They didn't give nothing. They didn't even care at all. That's a cold dude right there. Yeah.
I agree. And that's one of the reasons why, I think this is probably more fantasy based of a crime. This is somebody who, and fantasy doesn't have to be sexually motivated, although it can be, but maybe not even towards Nancy. Maybe it's directed towards Savannah. It could be also a revenge fantasy or a hate fantasy type of thing. Yeah. And so if the ransom notes are real, which I don't know. I'm like 50-50 on the ransom notes, to be honest with you.
The first two, I wholeheartedly believe they're real.
They could be.
Only because of what they had in them, and that I know that Savannah was reading it the evening of February 2nd, and it had stuff that none of us could have known. That's all. What she was wearing.
Well, I've heard one place say that what she was wearing was in there, but I haven't seen that in multiple places. What I have seen in multiple places was the location of the Apple Watch, or that there was an Apple Watch, and the broken floodlights.
So how about this? So in other words, if they were that good, they would have fooled Savannah and the FBI. You feel what I mean? Where Savannah still believes it to this day, supposedly, and the FBI is saying it's still a kidnap for ransom. I have to take those 2 ransom notes as real. The rest bogus. But that's just me,
When it comes to family members, there's a lot of emotion involved, and so their thoughts and opinions can be swayed by that. They also get more information than we do, as
Gotcha.
people that watch, but they don't get every bit of information. And so, like, for instance, I'm really close to like Steve and Christy Gonçalves, the parents of Kaylee Gonçalves, who were murdered by Brian Koberger. I still talk to them to this day, and they even told me, like, early on when they were getting information from law enforcement, they were getting an idea of where things were, and then people started reaching out to them, and there was a guy who was like a jailhouse snitch kind of thing, and it sounds like that guy extorted a little bit of money out of them to get information that ended up going absolutely nowhere. And so, family, they get some information, but they don't get everything, and there's a lot of emotion involved. And so, like, somebody had asked me if would the FBI have given, Savannah, the notes if they didn't think they were real, and I think it's a fair point, but I also think that Savannah's not your typical person, right? This is a high profile person with a lot of money and a lot of power. I think if she demanded to see them, and she demanded hard enough, I think she would have, regardless if the FBI thought they were real or not. Now, the FBI has come forward here recently out of Phoenix stating that there could be some legitimacy to them. So we got to keep it open mind with it. And that's why I don't discredit them at all.
Right. And another thing too is in order for them to have sent it and had all that, let's just say they weren't involved. Who was going to come up with that plan that fast that they were already reading it February 2nd? Not only everything that was in there, but all the crypto stuff that they have still gotten away with. Like, in other words, it was way planned. That wasn't somebody who was like, let me cash in and send this in. Those are the real ones to me,
Yeah.
And what I was saying is the other thing is that about how you were talking about the revenge thing. I know that the money, whether the money is real or not, I know that the ransom notes came from the abductor or abductors. That's how I look at it, Mark. Because whether it was for really ransom or not, I think there was a lot of revenge in there too, how you were saying earlier. Something there. Some anger, something.
I agree. I mean, if the ransom notes are real, it addressed Savannah right away. So I think that's who the focal point is to. And I think that's who, and then some of the other parts too, like she's buried with nature. Savannah was on the Today Show just 2 months before her mom's disappearance, and went back home to Tucson and was in nature.
Yep.
And so it used some terminology that I think that I would guesstimate that this person was probably watching her, and I would say that Savannah was probably the key focal point. And when you look at the house itself, he did some things, right? He broke floodlights and stuff like that. Yet he missed a couple of them, which kind of told me that this guy wasn't 100% familiar with the place. He was probably familiar with what you can see from outside of the yard, but not inside, because the ones that he missed were the ones that were inside of the yard. And also this one right here, he missed this one.
Which we haven't seen any footage, but maybe they knew that they were covered up so much that they didn't really care. The floodlight really wasn't because of the camera; it was just a light that I don't know. It's hard to read into that one.
Well, I mean, the doorbell camera, he could have broken that like he broke the floodlight. He didn't. You know, and if he is techie, which I think he is, which, you know, I don't know if you've seen this. Let me pull this up. Let me pull it up. I hope I have it here. I got the video. That'll work. I was wanting the still image, but the video will work. I'm all over the place. Oh, yes.
I'm still here. I'm just saying hi to Zaza real quick.
Let me find it real quick. Here it is. All right, so this is him turning around and leaving. I'm going to show you something pretty crazy. I don't know if you've seen this.
I'm watching. What are we looking for?
What do you think is in his backpack?
Oh, shit. Man, I don't have any clue. Like me, honestly, Daniel, like when it comes to like eyes or videos, I'm always the one that's like, I just kind of like go, I let other people do the research only because I'm like, I'll be like, that looks dead on to me. And then someone will prove me wrong. So I just kind of, oh, my bad. I'm gonna put the camera. Sorry. But to me, I always look like I let you guys do it. But see, like, I didn't see that. What am I looking at? Did the backpack open up?
The backpack's opening up. Yeah. So that means that either he just put something in, put something out. If he had a partner, it's interesting that the partner didn't, you know, close it for him. But inside the backpack there, to me, that looks like a drone.
Interesting.
Now, why would he be taking a drone inside of the house?
Why would he? That makes no sense. I don't know.
So you'd be taking the drone inside of the house because it has a camera. It has a pretty sophisticated camera on the side of the drone. Usually they have a gimbal, which that way you can stabilize video. Now, you also take that because maybe perhaps you don't want to turn your phone on and use the camera for your phone. Now, he can use, you know, any cheap camera, and if this is for ransom purposes and he wants to prove that he's taken Nancy, for instance, and he wanted a camera to do so, he could use any camera. In fact, you're probably wanting one that is not of the greatest quality, because the greatest quality of footage is going to lead back to you. There's going to be a lot of things that can be seen in the great quality of footage. You want grainy, you want something that's portable, something that you can print, something that's not traceable, and something just that you can prove that it was you that in fact took her. You use a drone inside of a home because you want the gimbal action. You want to memorialize the scene. This is something of a psycho killer type thing that wants to record this and watch this back in high def without having to use his camera because he can't turn it on.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And very possible. And that makes sense about the camera on those, because we all know they probably didn't have a phone, right? So that makes a lot of sense to hear that they have all that. And the fantasy thing, that's crazy. I mean, weird stuff happens. You know? So,
I mean,
like me, I can't see a drone. I see the backpack opening.
yeah. I mean, the drone's right here. You have the propeller here, propeller here, propeller down here, down here. Then you have the base of the drone right here.
Crazy. See, I never even, man.
There's an impression there of something 3D, and it's big. And I think it's an older one that you can't break down the propellers. Reason why you use an older one that doesn't break down the propellers is because it doesn't sync to your phone. It's not the Bluetooth type. I mean, it's going to have Bluetooth to it because of your controller, which begs the question: is that what's in his pocket? Because when you look at what's in his pocket, let me pull this down real quick.
It'd be cool.
Let's see. Pull what's in his pocket. So a lot of people think that this is an antenna, and I think it's possible. I think that if it is an antenna, this is a side-mounted antenna on a device. This isn't on a radio or walkie-talkie, because those radio walkie-talkie types, the antenna's on top of the device, and so you would have a walkie-talkie that was fairly small, which there are very few, and if it's that small, it would have slid into the pocket. It wouldn't have just stayed here. And so this is, if this is an antenna, it's most likely a side antenna, which guess what has a side antenna? Drone. Drone controllers do. I'm not 100% sold that it is an antenna. I feel like it's something that fills the entire pocket. But what do you think it is?
Yeah, like I told you, I'm terrible with the photos. Like me, looks like a little noodle. Looks like a knife. Like really, like that's why I always let other people, because like that's what I said, I'd say something and I would guess the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I'm just terrible at judging that stuff. I'm looking more for info or something. But I mean, I love watching it because like Monks, he put some good stuff on there where I'm like, damn. But I just, did you see the stuff off the light, the reflection or something? I was like,
I may have. I'm not sure if I saw that one. And then, the one thing I think he's left-handed. I don't know if have you seen my presentation on his left-handedness?
Mm-mm.
So let's see. So have you ever what's that?
It's not broken or hurt, or some people. I remember a lot of people saying that it looked like it was injured. No,
I doubt it. I mean, it could be, but I doubt it. I don't see anything that says that his hand is hurt.
They said he walks like with duck feet, right? Supposedly.
He does, but I have a friend of mine who does some boxing. And when I put out there that I thought he was left-handed, he came to me and said, "Hey, you know what? I think you're right. Most southpaws, because he did some boxing, he's like, they're left-bodied. Not all of them. Some of them kick with their right, lead with their right side, and just they're left-handed. But the majority of left-handed folks are. And this guy just kind of leans to the left with everything. And so, he takes a step up with his left foot. He approaches the left side of the door. And then he uses his left hand to manipulate his gun, which is interesting because I don't know anybody who's ever manipulated a gun with their non-dominant hand unless they had no choice, unless their right hand was blown off or something.
You needed it.
Yeah, exactly. But he manipulates it with his left hand. And then as he approaches, he then blocks with his right hand the light and then manipulates the doorbell camera with his left. For one, this is weird because you want to have your gun hand closest to your weapon at all times. And so just naturally, you're going to be doing this. Me, I'm right-handed, so my left hand would naturally come up. My right hand would stay closer to my weapon. Also, me, if I was trying to yank something off, I wouldn't immediately go with my left hand. I would go with my dominant hand, my right hand, which is what he tries to do. And then he bends down and looks over to the left to try to find something. Doesn't find anything. Then when he picks up the plants, he yanks them out of the ground with his left hand. And so everything has been done leaning towards the left.
Even the older picture, he was kind of leaning to the left.
Yeah.
I mean, on that angle, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He had his left foot out, yeah, you're right. And so I think we're looking at a left-handed individual, high-tech, somebody that is familiar with the ins and outs of the Nest, doorbell camera. Right. And also is possibly flies a drone. He's familiar with that.
Just what? Fly.
He's comfortable with a drone and knows about.
Like
I said, yeah, I think he's techie, man. I think he understands a lot of things.
Yeah, but you're putting a lot on one person. I'm not saying that one person can't do that. It's just hard for me to put all that I'm not saying it can't be done. That's pretty.
There could be a second person. I just, if this is a fantasy motivated crime,
then it probably won't be.
Yeah, I don't see him sharing the
I agree. I agree with you on that. But there's also that one, what do they call it? Parasocial behavior or parasocial relationships, where they're in love with somebody, but they don't even know about it. Kind of like infatuated with Savannah. It was Dear Savannah. Someone that's infatuated where that would be their fantasy. They couldn't get to her. They couldn't get to Savannah,
I agree. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences. And 2 months before Nancy went, got abducted, Savannah's on Today's Show going back home, and that's airing out. And it's her in nature. It's a lot of people who are celebrating her returning. She was on magazines that said rumor, Savannah Guthrie's coming back. Really, yeah.
So yeah.
Really putting her up on a pedestal. And I wonder if that, if you have this person who's deranged, who maybe has a vendetta against her, I wonder how that might make them feel. You know what I mean? And, especially if, I don't know, if this is a deranged individual. But I go back to, if the back door was the entry and exit point, we had prop doors, plus not only a prop door, but like I said, people are creatures of habit. Let's see, where do I have it at? Is it here? Yep. People are creature of habit. Check this out. There's an empty pot right here next to this gate that goes out. You have an empty pot that disappears, meaning law enforcement collected it. Meaning I 100% believe that pot was probably used to prop the side gate open. You know what I mean? So that was there, that disappeared in other video or other drone footage. Like, it's no longer there.
Interesting, yeah. Oh, that's right, that's right. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, so to me...
Did they collect the pots or not? But apparently they have, so that's a good thing.
Well, they collected that one. And if they collected that one, if they didn't collect the man, collected that, I would believe that they have a strong indication that he moved that pot. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh, and here's the other thing too, Watch. So here, look at the blood. Look at how close they are. And you also have some footprints here. You have three. You have one here, you have one there, and you have one there. But this tells me that the person that committed this crime, that there was just one person walking with Nancy.
Walking with her. So you're thinking that when she coughed or whatever with that blood, she was walking and leaned over it?
I think they put her on the ground. I think somebody put her on the ground, probably then moved the truck or the vehicle, the SUV, whatever it was, in front of the house, and then went back, picked her, helped her up and walked her out. I don't think he carried her. I think if he had two people, they would have. The reason why is that you don't have directionality with any of these blood drops, and they're super close together, meaning that she stood there and was taking very slow steps. And then when you look at the three footsteps, they're very close together. So they weren't taking large steps. And if somebody's being carried, they're going to be walking with brisker pace, and you're going to see one, directionality of the blood because of the speed, and two, the blood drops are going to be separated further apart. That close together means that she was walking fairly slow.
Yeah, that's tight.
You know what I mean? And so
I don't read into that. All I know is that the blood was oxygenated, and I have to take that as fact. So she was alive, right? At least at that time, right?
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Right.
I'd say that's true.
That makes a lot of sense. And really, I'm still looking for the footprints, but like I said, I'm blind. But I mean, I believe you. But I've also heard wheels and this and that. But I mean,
the only thing with this being a wheel is and again, somebody mentioned that maybe perhaps if it's like a one that like a walker wheel, I guess it's possible if they had to lift it up, but the difference, like these aren't the same, these aren't equivalent. And so like a wheel that's spinning, you would have equal distances between them. But it is possible that the device.
Because I heard wheel, footprint, all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I just know that it was oxygenated blood, and she was most likely alive. I don't know if she was carried out. Oh yeah, what's up with the casita? See how dirty it was? Was that after searched? I mean, I know you had it in your files right there. Oh, okay. See, so that's the footprint you're talking about.
That's one of them, and to me. So you have these drops here, that aren't affected. So that says that this was stepped on and then moved, and then the drops happened afterwards. This also is a significant amount of blood, which means that this wasn't dripped here and then stepped on. This was somebody stepping in a larger puddle and then stepping here.
Interesting.
Right. And then I used to have.
So it wasn't immaculate, as they say? I mean, because, if they would have had to put their foot in some blood to get that, like, which makes total sense. What you said is, would they have had to step into a big pile of blood? Where is that?
My guess is probably on the mat. I'm assuming it's probably on the mat, maybe inside of the house. I think Brian Ensign and some other folks have reported that there was blood inside of the house too, just in the entryway.
In the threshold, I believe I heard too. Yeah, I don't know if it's true, but so what's your theory as far as was it one door propped open, 3 doors propped open? Why were they open, and why would they ended up coming out the front door? Why did they end up? If you feel that's what happened.
What I think happened is that they underestimated her mobility and had to change plan, and they had to go out the front instead out the back.
They said, we'll just walk her. In other words?
Well, that's why I think there's only one person in there. If there was 2, they could have just carried her out. They propped the doors open. They could have just walked her out. Even if the second person was only like a driver pulls in, he gets out, walk her out, carry her. Somebody get her arms under her armpit. The other person gets her by the legs, and you walk her out. And it's a lot quicker. But it's a lot further to go from Nancy's bedroom back here all the way out around and then out this way and then over here than it is to just go right here. I'm trying to get an aerial view here. So Nancy's bedroom is back here. It's a lot easier to go this way like that versus this way, that way, out and about, and then out that direction. So my thought process is that they underestimated her mobility. There is an injury. Now, I don't know where that injury occurred, but that also probably played a role in her mobility as well. And so I think that they just changed the plan due to the fact that it's easier to get her out that way.
Yeah, makes sense too. Yeah, because I try not to put too much into the back door, is because it's not there's nothing quick about going that way. You know what I mean? And then people are trying to connect it to the house that's behind that. I'm like, there's still a little bit of terrain you got to go through to even get to there. Why would they go there? You know what I mean?
The reason they go out the back door is because anybody that does drive.
But remember, across the street, that's Sue Ellen, and to the next side is Paul. Their houses are all the way back. They don't even see nothing. Paul just has a little casita, but that's on the right side. But in other words, there ain't no one will see nothing right there. That's why you see those lights on top of the hill. That's really, you could park anywhere right there, yeah. And
you could, but it's kind of risky because if a guy driving a Tesla drives by, and you're parked out here, you're done ski. Anybody that drives by that has.
I agree. I don't think there was a vehicle there. I think they were dropped off. That one or 2 people were dropped off. That's just.
They could be dropped off. I've pondered with that idea because.
And also, if you thought more about the 41 minutes, is that we don't know that Nancy had Bitcoin, but what if she did? What if they were trying to get into her bank account? What about the laptop that we heard about? Maybe there's other things that they tried doing to begin with. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. You might know more about being.
I haven't heard anything. Yeah.
That's a lot of time,
Well, that's 41 minutes from the time that he disconnected the camera. We don't know that he made entry immediately afterwards.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It may have taken him 10 minutes to get into the house. He may have already been in the house before then. He may have been on the property as early as 12 something. If the no backpack, that's what I call it. If this image is the same night, based on the moon position, I swear this house is haunted. I'm hearing shifting. I'm hearing things, I swear.
And then, you know, this picture right here had to be taken from a video. We're just seeing a picture.
I agree.
Almost promise. Yeah, you know, that came from a video. Wish we had a little more.
But if this is the same night, then this image here was taken probably before 12:30. And the reason why I say that is because the lack of the moon. The moon position at this time would be behind the house, and it would make this it would give this appearance of darkness. I have a good buddy of mine named Steve. He does CSI work. He used to be a CSI agent and a CSI investigator, and he had actually done some pretty interesting footage. He wanted to see about, you know, what does it look like for a drone at night, right? And one of the things that we discovered is this was on a full moon before the moon got over the trees, and so it was extremely dark out there until the moon went over the trees. And the moon position that night, it would have been 12:30 or 12:45 before the moon would have cleared Nancy's house, and you would have been able to see as bright as it was when he was walking up there. Now, we suspect that he's walking up there at a different time. We suspect some tomfoolery when it comes to the timeline there of what time he's walking up there. I think he's actually walking up there at 2:12, not at 1:47. I'll show you why here in a second. One of the first things that caught my attention when it comes to the timeline is that it says that there's a disconnection at 1:48, and then there's a notification of a person on camera, or, you know, a movement at 2:12. Doesn't that usually happen the other way around? Don't you usually get the notification that there's somebody there, like movement, and then the footage? You know what I mean? So to me, it seems kind of backwards. And then let me show you this real quick.
I don't know. So you're disregarding I mean, in other words, we have to discredit the timeline that we got. Remember, because it wasn't just from Nanos, it was from FBI. By the day that we got the timeline, FBI was there too. If Nanos was just covering up something, FBI isn't going to co-sign. You already know that. They would have just removed themselves. You know what I mean? So I have to believe the timeline. I don't know about you.
Well,
you know?
the timeline could still be right. So what are they implying at 1:47? Is that the person arrived there? And so,
I think 1:47 is when he removed that camera, and 2:12 is when they have the cameras inside.
Well, he said that there was a possible dog or an animal, so it was an outdoor camera for sure. Now,
Indoor,
you know, the thing is, like, where's the notification that somebody was on camera before the video? Because he's on, you know, why don't we know what time it is that he arrived in? Because he took it's not like he walked directly up there and yanked it off. We haven't even seen footage of him yanking it off. True. The only footage we saw of him was putting flowers and stuff, and he was walking around. Yeah, so he was out there for at least a short period of time. And so why not put that we have notification of movement at 1:40 or at 1:35, and then we have this video or whatever it may have been, and then it's disconnected, because there's a period of time that he's there before it disconnects. And I think that timeline is important. Now, if that moment that he's on camera for the first time is at 1:48 and he's disconnecting the doorbell camera at 2:12, how does that change anything? It still puts him there at 1:47 and still has him leaving at 2:28. So they can flip those things around. That way, if somebody comes up and says, hey, if somebody comes up and says, hey, I committed this crime, and you ask Martin, well, when did you do it? And he's like, I did it at 1:47. Let me see if I can find the right one. I'm trying to find the right image for us. Yeah, this will do. So what what Steve had done is he was able to look at a moon calculator. And what he did was he measured the distance of the sidewalk and also the distance of the shadow here. Now, we know how tall he is based on what law enforcement is indicating, right? They said that he's 5'9", 5'10". So based on the height that we already know and the length, we should be able to determine the time based on the moon's positioning. And the crazy thing is, like what was it? It was at 2:12 is when he's 5'10", 5'11". And then we were able to determine also, based on the shadow on the moon's positioning, that it was actually closer to 2:12. This isn't the right one. This is a different one. But it was 2:12 a.m. that he was out there. I'm going to try to find the right one. That was the one that he gave me before.
The lunar angle?
Yeah. See, that's not the right one. I think I'm clicking on the wrong one. I got to find it. Moon shadow.
So kind of what you're saying too is, so the other picture, it could have been him staking out a little earlier. In other words, like 12 something, or why didn't they get that notification too or something? But remember, it was her subscription wasn't paid for, but she would have still gotten the alert.
Mm-hmm.
She would have? Oh.
Well, she would have gotten the alert. There would have been alerts, but I don't know if there would have been pictures or anything else like that. So here's the presentation that I was looking for. So at 2:10 a.m., this person, based on the height and moon position and also the angle of the shadow and the length of that, would be 72 inches tall.
Of course.
At 2:12, he's 5'11". And at 2:14, he's 5'10", and this is how he shrinks. Then he was able to confirm at 2:14, based on the moon positioning, the shadow that it would have created to give that same shadow positioning would have been closer to 2:10 to 2:14. And so Chris McDonough, former homicide detective, I had him on the show. And before I disclose this to anybody, I was like, man, I got this information about what time this guy was out there. It's just not jiving with what law enforcement's putting out. It's not making sense, and I don't know what to do with it, because based on the numbers, and we've tested this out with Steve, who's on the East Coast, myself in Texas, we came within a pretty accurate amount of time, about 5 minutes, of how accurate and with height and stuff. And this is coming out later, and he's like, what is it, a little bit after 2? And I was like, how do you know that? He's like, because I did the same thing. He's like, he had contacted some college, and they did some stuff with the moon and lunar positions and angles, and they came up with shortly after 2 o'clock as well. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping, I guess, that, the sheriff didn't lie to us, but I don't have a lot of confidence in that.
I mean, yeah, we can only, whatever he said, we're not sure about, but at least when the FBI was there, we got to take what they say, only because they're not going to co-sign for him if he was up to no, which we know he's up to no good, but
right,
allegedly,
Well, I mean,
but the moon thing, that's awesome. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But
to me, the only reason they would do this is if they don't have a lot of information. There wasn't a lot of evidence left behind. Because if you had a lot that was left behind, you wouldn't need to do this.
They had to know that she didn't have a house alarm, that she didn't have life alert. Life alert's a blessing, bro. And it's for my grandmother, it was amazing, bro. They came to her house at least 5 different times, and it wasn't an emergency, but they came anyway. You know what I mean? So it was right here, I just don't know why. And then I saw Savannah talking about how she was in constant pain. How come there wasn't any? And of course, this is family dynamics, but why wasn't anybody taking care of her, living with her to take care of her if she was in constant pain? So just, I don't know. They had to know she didn't have an alarm at the house, pretty much. And they had to know that, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I think they may have just done some surveillance on the house and would have known a lot of things based on the surveillance aspect of it. As far as her not having an alarm, if that was truly a different night, the night that he doesn't have the backpack, if that was, different than January 31st, then they took a pretty big risk by doing that. Because again, just because she wasn't watching the feed doesn't mean that, that she wouldn't watch it in the morning if she had the subscription. And then what's going to happen if she sees that? She's contacting the police. She's contacting her family. They're buffing up security. She's probably leaving the house.
Risky, I get it, but what if it's a tester? What if they're already close by? Yeah, but that does make sense. Why would they? Maybe that was their test, and to see that, okay, they got a nest.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way maybe that's why they were so comfortable when they did come back. Because they already felt, because that guy was cold and comfortable, whatever he was doing, He, she, that's another argument.
Now, if this person did go out there in January 11th or the other few days that you mentioned to scope out the place, doesn't that kind of make you believe that this person, was, getting information, getting intel, those type of things? Wouldn't that make us believe that this is probably more than likely somebody that's not really close to the family? You wouldn't need to do those things, right?
I mean, you're going to get vetted out if you're the family. Why would you even try something like that to make a big charade out of all this? As many times as I've gone back and forth with the family, today I don't think they had anything to do with it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that Monk's made a pretty good, argument, on the show, which, by the way, guys, Monk's is going to be back on the show on Wednesday night. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe here. So you're going to be a part of that. Yeah, Monk's, we already booked it. He's going to be back on Wednesday night. We're going to be going a little bit late. We're going to be at 9 p.m. on Wednesday. I'll be back in my true crime lair home by then, I hope, at least. And everything will be great. But yeah, Monk's is going to be back on Wednesday, guys. We booked that already. Tomorrow night I have Dr. Vona, professor in psychology. We're going to be talking about the Charlie Kirk case that's going on with Tyler Robinson right now. And then on Saturday, I'll be airing out an interview that I did with Carrie Danes. She's a world-renowned forensic psychologist who studies criminals and hardcore, offenders, worked in maximum prisons in the UK. She's going to be on. We're going to be talking about the Brian Koberger case. So you don't want to miss that, guys. So that's what's going on the rest of the week. Little quick thing. What do you have going on the rest of the week that you want to plug in?
No plugging. I don't know. I'm just still trying to find answers for Nancy. Sometimes I go live, I'm having issues. So, sometimes I'll go live. Sometimes I like being able to support other, you've been around for a minute. I've been watching you for a good minute. So I'm a fan. I was already subscribed, but I love how you're reaching all those connections too, and that's what I'm trying to do. I want to find answers for Nancy, you know what I mean? And she deserved better than this, without accusing the family. Nancy deserved better than this. You being ex-law enforcement, I'm pretty sure you're kind of embarrassed on how it was kind of handled and kind of why you probably not even cool for you to speak of, but why someone who's in charge of 1.2 million people, his leadership and his PR is just like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of Nanos. I'll be honest with you. I don't
see the urgency, period, and I never have. So it's weird.
To me, there's just always been this control dynamic with him, and whether it's controlling social media, journalists, or controlling his department by putting people that have little experience in certain positions solely because they're going to be yes men, that are going to be grateful for the position that they're in, and that they'll do whatever it is that he asks of them. And so, I have a problem with that. I think that when you have somebody like that, then, you make yourself susceptible to a lot of mistakes and a lot of things that are going to turn into bigger issues later on. Even if they find this guy, a defense attorney, depending on the information that they pull in and the evidence, based on the issues now, and I think that there could be an avenue there for a defense regardless of, we haven't even gotten to that point of what the evidence is against them, and people are already thinking that, and that's solely based on the performance from the Pima County Sheriff's Department. And you also have, the FBI throwing them under the bus, which to me tells me that they're not very close. When Kash Patel is saying, we did this, we did all that, and Pima County sucked, and they got in our way, and we could have done so much better had they given us this and done this at this time. My response to that is, so what, dude? You got involved 3 days late. It's been what, 158 now? Come on. It's not like you guys are the responding agency on every call. That's rarely the case. Most of the time, it's exactly how it went down in this case. Local law enforcement gets involved, then they need your help, then you go in and then you help. Just like every other case, you guys were in there. You guys were looking for DNA too. Doesn't matter if he released the scene or not. I guarantee you right now, if and Steve would probably attest to this, that if they go out there with luminol and a black light, they probably could figure out a couple of things. One, how many footprints are in there in the blood? Is there multiple pairs? Yeah, you still could be able to get that. Right. Even unless they contaminated,
but to find a suspect, because like what you're saying, I get it, because everybody they're more worried about the integrity of the investigation, which I get it. But to me, I'm like, I want to know who took Nancy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And where is Nancy? So I take it from the mad point of view, where you're taking it from the legal point. I get it. You have to have the, because it's going to be tough. It's like a defense lawyer's dream, really, if someone does get arrested, is what you're saying, kind of, because all of the contamination, like maybe they can find stuff still. I don't know how luminol works, where they didn't clean the mat still there, right?
I mean, I don't know if they ever took it, but yeah, I mean, unless they went in there with like some heavy duty stuff and pressure washed it, then it's going to be gone. But blood, will stay there for quite a while. And, you may not be able to pull up like DNA or anything off of it, but what you can pull from it is, all right, how many shoe prints do we have? Because if you have 3 different types of shoe prints, that tells us what? That you have a perp, you have Nancy, and then you have a second guy. If there's only, 2, or, you have barefoot or whatever the case may be, that's going to kind of lead us down the path of, all right, how many people were involved in this? So there's still some information that can be taken, even though it's been such, a while.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, good point.
But, in that case, though, with Nanos and what they did is, like I said, if the FBI was close to solving this, their message wouldn't have been to throw Pima County under the bus. The message, even if they were absolutely right, would have been like, hey, even if, they would have asked them, like, how bad was Pima County? Hey, you know what? There may have been some hiccups in the beginning, but we worked together. We're confident in the case that we're building. We feel that we're going to have an arrest pretty soon. We have some things that we're waiting on, but we think that this is going to come to a close in the near future. That is a confident answer. Not, these guys sucked. They made it bad.
Maybe it was out of frustration. Maybe
they could have been, but I just feel like it was a question that I don't think he was prepared for. Is he ever? That's a good question too.
He thinks he's ready, bro, off the cuff. He thinks he got it.
Yeah, he does. But I don't think he was prepared for it, and I think he gave probably more of an honest answer that he wanted, which comes off as a very unconfident person in this investigation. What do you think?
I mean, I agree.
And so you think? Do you think this was all for ransom?
I think it's for ransom, and has to be something else in my mind. I feel like there has to be some kind of revenge, anger. It was written to Savannah. What if it's a college? I don't know, because she went to school there. I don't know.
And so, but you think that the ransom notes are real, though, right? You think that they are?
The first 2, I believe, they're 100% real, only because of the timing. I think she would, if Savannah was reading that thing on the evening of February 2nd means that they had already put this into play almost, because they already did this, whoever that person was, that's, but this one was then put into play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes sense at all. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. And you think there was two people? Do you think there was two people in the house, or do you think there was like a driver?
I think there was, for sure, I think there was a driver, the perp on the porch, and I think there was someone else there in the house. I don't think they did it alone, but.
And what do you think about the back doors? Why do you think those were left open? Do you think it was a change of plan, or what are your thoughts there?
I don't know why they would have even gone out that way, other than it was staged to do it. Other than, I don't see why they would have went out that way, kind of like how you pointed out that the angles. But I also try to think, like, I won't be able to figure out why they were propped open.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I would do with that information. You know what I'm saying? Because we know she went out the front. I mean, I think we could agree on that, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. And at night, how dark is it out there?
It's pretty dark.
It's pretty dark.
Cats are fighting. Bear's sister came over. Sibling fighting. Yeah, it gets pretty dark. Honestly, when the moon's out there, even when it's like really dark, our eyes kind of adjust. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you can see everything, but you can kind of see. And I'm not, I don't have the best vision, but I could still walk without a flashlight, if that makes sense. It's just darker than most neighborhoods. Kind of like when I lived in Merced, we owned a house and it was in county property, so there's no street lights.
Right.
Septic tanks, no street lights and all that. So I kind of really like it a lot. It's nice. Of course, there it's a little different. But.
Yeah. And how quiet is that neighborhood, especially at night?
Yeah, super quiet. I don't know if you saw the little island on top of the hill right there.
Yeah.
Sitting there late at night, you hear everything, probably from a 2-block radius. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Anything you would have heard. You know what I mean? Especially with neighbors up there. That's why when people say something about a dolly or this, like rolling the dolly and stuff like that, I'm like, those are loud. Like, in other words, and that wasn't a fish. They were just, to me, that perp came and that was his mission, to take her, whether he was with somebody or not that helped him. That was his goal,
Yeah. The blood, though, if they had her in a dolly or wheelchair or something like that with a wheel that they could move her quickly, I just feel like the blood wouldn't have been so close together.
True.
You know what I mean? I just feel like the blood would have been separated further apart.
And I think she was carried, but you think she was walked. That's even
I think
worse.
she walked.
Why aren't she didn't step in any blood? Because those aren't her footprints, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I don't think she stepped in any blood. I don't know about the footprints if they're hers. I think Savannah may have mentioned that she was barefooted, or somebody may have mentioned that she was barefooted.
Yeah, right.
And
that's a good one. Is how do you think that Savannah and Nanos could tell us that she was taken out of her bed and that she was wearing pajamas and no shoes without seeing it, without having a thumbnail or a video? What if they did? I believe there was a camera in the house. When he was talking about the movement and he said about the animal is when they were still talking about the outside.
right.
But later on, he confirmed that the camera he was talking about was the inside, letting us know that it wasn't an animal. You know what I'm saying? So
If that's at 212 and there's movement inside the house, if that's the first time, then it took him some time to get into the house.
If those numbers right. If those numbers do match up, you're right.
Now, if he is out there also on multiple nights, or not even on multiple nights, just this, I think he was there multiple nights, but those lights on in the back that you mentioned are on all the time.
All the time. And then that little light right below it to the right?
Yeah.
That's the street sign right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a street sign, and that's actually
The casita.
this light here is a window, ain't it?
That's Paul's casita right there. He has a little house and then he has a big house.
That's the same light on. What I think that is not a light. I think that's a reflection of the moon.
Oh,
That's what I think.
yeah, very possible.
I think that's what that is. I don't know. I mean, it could be a light. It's not as bright as these. This is a sign. This is a reflection because of the sign. It's about the same,
Right.
it's about the same intensity. It's a little bit further away, so it's probably a little bit brighter than this. This is a reflection from glass. It's going to be brighter than this. But I think this is closer than...
We're still sus about that house up there with the lights. Because, nobody lives there. The owner lives out of state. And she has a talking house, saying it talks to you. For one time I was in the driveway and it was talking to me. We call it the car house because when you look it up on Google Maps, there's like 13 cars parked right there. So during this time that we were there searching for Nancy or even being there at Nancy's neighborhood, there was at least 4 or 5 truckloads of dirt getting taken out of the backyard right there. Supposedly to dig a pool. But the day before, we had thought we found a bunker right there because there was an anomaly. That anomaly is still on Google Earth. But it's just a square that looks like could be a fire pit, but it was like right under a tree. Anyway, that property, there's always weird stuff that there's just a lot that happened with that specific property that's just strange,
Yeah. Steve from True Crime Web says, Alex's description of FBI and Ellie individually returning to the same home multiple times regarding security footage support Ellie doesn't have their ducks in a row. Chaos equals mistakes.
That was early on, yeah.
And we have a couple of super chats. I'm going to go through them real quick. We got Misty A's 1999 saying, hey, first time here. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you as well. We have Simply Investigating is a new member. We have a Discord for our members, guys. I'll put in the link at the end of the show in the posts, so that way you can check that out. Community posts. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Then we got Nina Drew at $4.99 saying we strive to do better tomorrow than we did yesterday. Another member, What a Wonder. Nina Drew coming in again with great live tonight. Paige coming in with $2 saying thanks, Daniel and Alex. Justice for Nancy Guthrie. Thank you guys. Mountain Mama, good to see you, Mountain Mama. I love my turkey family. Nina Drew coming in with $1.99. Great live tonight. Please subscribe. Yes, please hit the like button. Let's subscribe. Let's get the likes up, guys. If you do me a favor, hit the like button. That'll get the algorithm going and let YouTube and X and Facebook. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you're listening to this, give us a follow and a subscribe. We got members from Midwest. Good to see you, Midwest. Good to see you here. Kim, Not Your Cup of Tea is a new member. Steelers fan, been a member for 33 months. So yes, thank you guys. You guys rock. You guys are amazing. S-Dubs, member for 11 months. All right. This guy must have surveilled at night multiple times to be aware and comfortable to be here. As comfortable as he is with the lights on behind him. You know what I mean? I think he might be on mute. I'm not sure if he's there. We love you, Alex. This is from Dirty Diana, paying $10. And so what I'd say was, if for him to be coming out here and being comfortable and having these lights on behind him at this house, I must say that he's probably was aware that these are on all the time. He had to have surveilled multiple times to know that.
That he was comfortable enough that he's not, yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you think he's wearing a mask under a mask, or do you think this is his facial hair?
Like I told you, I'm terrible with that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to lie. I thought I saw a mask under the mask. Only because there's a certain angle that he turns. It seems like something covers his eye, and it's not the beanie or not the ski mask. But like I told you, I'm not good at that kind of, because some people, everybody's eyes look like it. I was the suspect. You're probably the suspect now.
I've been told that.
Look into Daniel. Nah.
I give this guy too much credit. I tell people he's smarter than people think, and they're like, why? are you him? I'm like, no, no. But I think, I think he's smarter than what most people think. I mean, like, for instance, the holster, right?
That's weird.
Well,
but yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, if he was a bumbling idiot, regardless of the mistakes that Pima County would have made, FBI had been involved, this guy would have been caught by now. But we look at the holster. It's facing the right. It's the wrong type of holster. And it's in the center of his body, but right in front of his crotch, which to me is a form of power. This goes back to the fantasy thing. Now, if he was left-handed and he didn't want people to know that, I live in San Antonio, Texas, population of about 2 million people. When I went on Facebook Marketplace to look up a left-handed holster, I found 2 for sale. So they're not very common. So if he wanted to go and buy a left-handed holster, that could be a dead giveaway, of somebody selling one. Somebody, once this video came out, people would have been like, man, I've only sold a handful of left-handed holsters. I sold 1 or 2. You know what I mean? Even if it was a secondary market or whatnot. Now, you buy the wrong holster because if you're having to pull this gun from an unnatural position, whether that's twisting your hand like this and yanking the gun out like that, or even pulling it from your non-dominant hand and then switching it over, you want to be able to pull it out quickly and easy. The problem with a holster that would fit this gun is that it might make it difficult to yank it out. This would let it fall out. So that way, if you're pulling it, like I mentioned, because I don't think it takes much to just have your hand like this, yank it, and you're here. I mean, it's just boom, boom. And you're that way it can face the wrong way. You're just twisting your hand and you can yank it and twist it this way. It's a lot quicker than pulling it from like if he would have had it on his right side. And if it was me, I'm right-handed. So if I would have had it on my left side, I mean, it's an uncomfortable thing to do, but holsters also have certain safety deals. That way you have to usually twist the gun in a certain way to yank it out. And I feel that if you had the right gun, the right holster for it would have made it more difficult to pull it out in an unnatural position and or with a non-dominant hand. I think it was intentional. I think everything is intentional with this guy.
So, but you're saying he's left-handed. Why would he have bought a left-handed? Or that's a right-handed?
That's a right-handed one.
Gotcha.
And that's why he has it in the center of his body, so he can pull it still with his left hand.
And that's a real gun? Have you guys looked? Some people said it might have been an airsoft, or is it a Glock? I'm like, you tell me. I don't know. I
don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you from here. Like, I would be lying if I said I'm 100% positive that that's a real weapon. I can assume that it is.
Would he buy a holster like that, or maybe someone loaned it to him?
I mean, given his ensemble here that he's wearing, and given the fact that they haven't found a lot of DNA on him or in the house, tells me this is probably new to him. Because if he was, and that's also the other reason why I question him being there multiple times wearing the same clothes, at least the same jacket. You got to drive there. You got to get into your car, get into your house. Even if you wash your clothes, it's washed amongst other stuff. It's dried amongst other clothing. Hair gets stuck into it. Things of that nature happen. So I struggle with him wearing this clothes prior to this night. And it all looks like it's from Walmart. And I don't think he went to a Walmart and got everything from there. What I think is that this type of clothing has usually been put on clearance. And when it's gone on clearance, a lot of these, secondhand buyers and sellers, or secondhand sellers, what they'll do is they'll go in there, buy it at clearance, and then turn around and sell it at a flea market for a little bit more. Less than what the original price is, but more than what the clearance price is, and make a little bit of a profit. And I think that's what this guy did, is he found somebody that had some clearance items from Walmart, because I think it would have been pretty easy, maybe not easy, but I think they would have been able to find out who this guy is by the SKU numbers if he purchased it at a Walmart locally.
Right.
Now if he purchased it, at a Walmart in a different state while he's visiting somebody, that's a different story. But if he purchased it locally, I strongly suspect by now they would have been able to, cross some dots and
Right.
found a guy that purchased them. You know what I mean?
I mean, they are. I always keep saying they, but they're smarter than people first, thought they were. They're
Yeah,
they've gotten away with it this long.
I agree. I mean, I was watching Chris Como earlier, and he was like, "Man, guy's a fool. He doesn't look professional. Doesn't look like anything. He's got a holster in his front. This and that." And I'm thinking to myself, like, at first I thought the same thing, but as time went on and they didn't make an arrest, him being a bumbling fool and an idiot and not getting caught by now, when you've had the highest persons in the government looking into this case, shoot, you've had President Trump talk about this case and it still not get solved. Those things don't usually come together. Those aren't usually the same thing. You don't usually have idiots getting away with crimes like this.
I agree with the best resources in the country, in the world.
Exactly. And thank you, Afti, for your 5 memberships. Thank you so much. And then we have Arnold Terry and then True Be You. Thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. I appreciate everybody that's here tonight. So yeah, I don't know.
People, don't you think that someone would have flipped by now, unless it was family? Family doesn't turn on family. You know what I mean?
I don't know. There's a couple $1 million on the line to turn on family.
I know.
I've seen people. I've seen
1.2 million, folks. You see people, family turn in. You're right, but hey, it's not easy to get into certain cultures. You know what I'm saying?
And it could be. I mean, if this is a 2-person job and they've kept it quiet this long,
right?
It's probably, and if the ransom notes are real, it's probably a couple, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Bonnie and Clyde, they came up with this plan, like, let's do this.
Wasn't there the Lonely Hearts Killers? There was a couple, I want to say that's what they were called, serial killers who went around doing some crazy things. They were a couple. I think it was the Lonely Hearts. I could be wrong about the name. Correct me in the live chat. I know you guys will.
I know there's a lot of hardcore couples that have done some crazy stuff. Yeah.
And so I think it's possible. I'm not, yeah, San Antonio. I don't know. I think that, like I said, if there is, there's when I read or heard about the apology, quote unquote apology, ransom, non-ransom, the second one, I don't know. It just kind of felt like, I don't know, like empathy there that this guy doesn't show on camera.
Right. I'm gonna have to agree with you on that. But that's why I have to feel that there's more than one person. That's the only reason. But you're right, though. The empathy that we hear coming from their ransom note does not apply to this person right here on the porch. In my opinion. I'm with you.
And the only thing that bothers me about it is that the only thing that bothers me about it is that if it was for financial gain, let's just say that they were trying to get a ransom. Savannah reached out after they told him that she passed and said, we're willing to pay. They don't have to be honest about things. They could say, all right, give us $2 million and we'll tell you where she's at. We'll get you $2 million and you disappeared like you did now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it just disappeared at that point. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, remember, Donald Trump put the death penalty up right there out in front. We're like, they messed up. You know what I mean? Their plan didn't work out as, like they really thought they had a real good plan. And that's why they had maybe the empathy. I don't know. I still believe that note too, because it was connected to the same Bitcoin address and to the same IP, from the same IP address.
Well, I think they've walked the IP address back, saying that it wasn't the IP, but there was certain markers or it was done in a certain way.
I'm not really good at it, so you know it better than I do. So, yeah, something of that nature. Yeah.
That they believe them to be the same, from the same person.
Correct.
What those markers are, what that is that they're seeing, they haven't disclosed that, so I have zero idea.
Right.
But you know, if they are the same person, like I said, the other thing is they didn't reach out till, according to Howard Bloom, was 6:48 p.m. February 2nd. You know, you were out there the next day. By the time that you got out there, did you know that the floodlights were broken?
No clue, because it's in the back of the house. We weren't even allowed back there. And
Do you think anybody could have seen that from somewhere, from out there?
A helicopter or a drone. I don't think anybody had drones, or maybe Fox did, but other than that, nobody would have been able to see it in person. Mm-hmm. But what she was wearing, and then that she was wearing those shoes, and for a while, I don't know if you remember, we knew that the Apple Watch was somewhere that only the person would know, right? And they had that. Later, we find out it's on the floor next to the bed or something like that. Like they couldn't have just guessed that. You know what I mean? You might be able to guess some things and might be able to, but to nail all those on the spot by the next day too, she's already reading it.
Well, here's the thing about the Apple Watch. And again, this is if the ransom notes are real. It tells us a lot. So I've heard two things. I've heard it was on the floor, and I also heard it was on the nightstand. If it's on the nightstand, huh?
It was on the. I heard it was on the floor next to the nightstand. Maybe
so I mean, it's like rumors, right? There's a little truth, but you got to wade through it.
We know it's in the area. I got you.
Yeah, we're there somewhere.
Right.
But let's just say that it was on the nightstand. If it was on the nightstand, that's a pretty minuscule thing for the perpetrator to remember. It was most likely put there, probably planted. If it was on the ground, it's also minuscule to remember if it was knocked over and fell down. It was possibly that it was Nancy Guthrie who had it on, and he was aware of it when he was restraining her. I believe she was restrained, and I'll tell you why I believe she was restrained here in a second. But as he restrained her, he was aware of it, was aware of its possibilities of being tracked, etc. Took it off and threw it on the ground. And those are the reasons why it's memorable. Why I think that she was restrained is that the proximity to the ground in which for the aspirated blood to have occurred, the closeness. I mean, if you look at the cluster that is left behind on the blood.
So you think her face was close to the ground or up?
I do think that her face was close to the ground. It was probably anywhere between 12 to 17 inches.
Not carried, like if she was being carried like in a tarp or something to a vehicle per se?
No. She was.
I don't know how to judge the droplet. So you made a lot of sense of the stuff you're explaining. I just don't understand how that works. I just know it was oxygenated.
Yeah. So here it is. All right. So you see how close that cluster is of droplets. So like birdshot. If you shoot birdshot at somebody at close range, the cluster is going to be close. The further apart, the further the cluster is. This is pretty close together. What we don't notice here is a handprint on the ground, as if she was coughing and had her hand on the ground. She's that close to the ground. There should be a handprint left there. And if it wasn't, then where's the handprint of her getting off the ground into the blood? So this makes me believe that she was restrained. In the, I want to say it was in the Carlos search warrant. A lot of that was redacted, but one of the things that they were looking for was restraints.
Interesting.
Now, this also means that she's not gagged nor hooded, which is also interesting. True. That they would restrain her but not gag or hood her.
Very true. Allow her to be able to even scream, right?
Exactly.
They didn't gag her, they didn't cover her face, which means to you what?
either they tried to and there was a medical issue and she couldn't breathe and they had to undo it, or perhaps the plan wasn't initially to take her and they felt that they needed to. Whether she scratched him, whether, something of that nature. There's DNA now of this person on her.
And then the 228, the pacemaker,
That's her leaving. Yeah, that's them leaving the scene.
Remember, we got some kind of info about the spike. Do we not know what time that spike was?
Supposedly that was at 2:00. Like at 2.
Oh, really?
Supposedly that was at 2 a.m. I read that in an article that said at 2 a.m. But it also kind of sounded like the guy was saying if there was a spike at 2 a.m. versus there was a spike at 2. So it's kind of iffy. But if that happened at 2 a.m.
What if he came into Nancy's patio or went out in that way somewhere?
He could have. He definitely could have.
Maybe that's why I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Yeah.
Yeah, he could have. I just, the back door and the back gate being propped open.
Those are always going to be weird. The gate was propped open and the door. And what is it? 2 doors?
It was the doors. The gate, I don't know if the gate was actually propped open or not, but there was an empty pot that was next to the gate.
The one that
was collected. And so it being collected kind of tells me that they thought he touched it. I mean, I would have thought they would have collected the mat also, but it's neither here nor there. So
as far as motives, is it money to you, or is there something else? Is there revenge, or what was the other? You had a few others. Are you an aiming in it?
I think this is fantasy driven. I think that the guy having the gun on his crotch, they think that the video of him walking up is staged. Let me see.
The drone to be able to relive it. That's crazy.
The drone to relive it. The connection to. I mean, even the fact that, let's just say the ransom notes are real. They didn't contact Savannah. They didn't reach out to Savannah's. They reached out to local news stations and then TMZ, a pretty big one.
Weird, yeah.
Big news station, that is.
But the reason is because that's how they got away with it. Because when you submit to those, apparently it goes through all this where they can't track it.
It goes back to my thought of a techie guy, though.
A hacker. Exactly.
Well, maybe not a hacker possibly, but a techie guy, somebody that's familiar with
both.
Yeah. So, I mean, very much could be a hacker, but definitely a techie dude. And you're right. That's how he got away with it.
Right. So that's why they didn't call Savannah. It wasn't like Kalala, let me call Tommaso. Oh. This was like calculated enough that.
That's true, but this also went out like a full over 24 hours, from 6:48 p.m. on February 2nd. That's a long time.
Okay, but remember, so let's just say in those 24 hours, you just find out Nancy's abducted, and you just want to put this together all on your own off the cuff. That's a lot to come up with. You have to find out what was in the house. You had to know what she was wearing. You had to know about the floodlight. Nobody knew that information that soon. I know what you're saying. It took 24 hours, but it was 24 hours at least. That was still pretty fast if you think about ransom notes and putting all this stuff together. You know what I mean?
I mean, maybe. I think there's only one case, though. I think it's the Lindenberg kid that the abductors, and this is back in the 30s.
Yeah, I remember.
An abductor contacted media.
Yeah.
More recently, it's been BTK. It's been Zodiac. It's been serial offenders that have these sick fantasies that want to be in the media, who get off on not just their crimes, but also being able to stump people. Like BTK didn't commit his crime because he wanted to, antagonize the media and also law enforcement. And that
he wanted to get caught, though.
He did want to be a cop. And this guy walks like one.
He wanted to get caught, but he did want to be a cop. He wanted to get caught because remember, he got away with the other murders. Remember the early on ones, the shooting, right? Didn't he do the shooting at the
Well, I mean, he did a few, but I'm not sure about a shooting. I
But
could
he
be wrong.
wanted, I think he wanted to get caught, or maybe I'm wrong, but I know he wanted to get caught because didn't he get caught with the floppy disk or something?
He did get caught with a floppy disk, but that was after years. You know, Zodiac.
Right. But maybe he just, like you said, he was living that fantasy all those years, but finally he probably just wanted to get caught enough that he did that, slipped and sent the floppy. Because he
That, or I mean, you know, the persons that commit this kind of crimes are super narcissists. They think they're overconfident, and they think that they know everything. You know, whether it's BTK or Brian Koberger, and that's kind of what ends up doing them in the end also. And I think that could have been with what happened with BTK, but it's those type of offenders who have reached out to media. And like I said, I don't think BTK committed his crimes because he wanted to reach out to the media. I think that was an aspect of him of getting off on it. In another way, reliving the crime, talking about it, almost bragging about it in the ways that he was going about it. And in this scenario here, it's kind of the same. It's like, hello, Savannah, we have your mother, Nancy, which is weird on its own. It's saying Savannah and Nancy, we have your mother, Nancy. It's not like she has a different mother or another mother, but she still names her.
True.
You know, I thought that there was a little bit of a similarity there to like hello, Clarice from Silence of the Lamb. You know, in the way that this guy goes, hello, Savannah, and then you get this that comes out of it. I'll show you this.
Talk to her and you'll see. I'm speaking.
So this is from Silence of the Lamb. This is after the first ransom note where it says, hello, Savannah, we have your mother, Nancy, and then this is the response.
She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see. I'm speaking now to the person who's holding my daughter. Catherine is very gentle and kind. Talk to her and you'll see. She is full of kindness.
So did a profiler see something in the note that thought that it would be wise to see if they put something similar? Because look, Savannah's reading this. They all have notes in their hands. They're reading this. Savannah's a professional reporter. You know, she's never looked down to read anything when she's reporting anything.
You're right.
You know, and then I think even Megyn Kelly and Ashley Banfield were pointing out that on some of the posts that Savannah was putting out there wasn't capitalizations, there wasn't certain things that were custom to what she put out there in the past, even throughout this time frame. And they felt that maybe perhaps the FBI was putting in their, not 2 cents, but they were putting in things to try to get the abductor to react. Now, if we haven't seen the full ransom notes, but maybe there's more in there that made them believe that they should put something like this.
That makes a lot of sense too. Like, what if they wanted to touch that person's button? In other words, like, we get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So in there. Yeah, but we don't. If we were able to read the entire note, yeah, I get it. I would love to. Who knows if we ever will?
I agree. You know, I think that if we were to see the entire note, that there might be some pretty major clues into who this person is, if they are the same.
I agree. Our communities are huge too. Besides all the law enforcement and forensic, like, dude, there's people that are out here that are be like, we'll look into that for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People want to know answers. You know, people want answers.
Now, if this is possible, if this is true, right, that the FBI is looking at this and they see a similarity to this movie, so they put in something and have her read it off so that they can push a button, so to speak. I mean, what kind of person are they looking at? They're looking at a person who identifies with Hannibal Lecter. True. You know, and I mean, we go back to everything that we know about this case, that, you know, this guy walks up there with a gun on his crotch in front of a camera he doesn't need to be in front of, because he could have just gone in the back door. He would have never had to be in front of the camera. And even if the plans changed and he now needed to go out the front, all he had to do is open the front door from inside, reach over and rip the camera off, and he's never in front of it. But no, he chooses to come out in front of it.
Good point.
You know, what kind of person chooses to come out in front of the camera?
Someone who's comfortable enough to maybe know facial recognition, to know that they've tried this out, that they could wear these masks. Yeah. The only thing that is sticking out is their eyes. They could be fake beard. You know, you've seen those prosthetic ones, man. They're pretty. They go down to your neck and everything.
Yeah.
One dude, it was a white dude. He was robbing banks. Remember, he had a black one. Put on gloves and getting away with it until he finally got caught. It's like, man, they're very realistic. Do you think there's something under the ski mask?
I think it's possible. I mean, when you look at the guy's face, there's one thing that stuck out to me, and that was the lack of a nose.
Lack of the nose. Good point.
There's a lack of the nose on his right here.
Did you say that? Lack, right? Lack.
Yeah, a lack. There's a little nose on this dude, like
Right.
super
Little
little.
nose or that stuff's tight enough that it's holding it down.
Right, and I don't think that this is the type of ski mask that's going to hold anybody's nose down. JLR put on a mask in front of the house, and when he turned to the side, now I don't think JLR has a big nose or anything, but that mask didn't do his nose any favors. And in fact, I think it made his nose look bigger because of the material and the pattern that's on it.
Right.
And so I think that this guy having a small nose is one, either it's possible that this guy has a really small nose or he's wearing something compressed on his face underneath that is making his nose go down.
And then another thing I noticed about his eyes is that I never see, okay, so the round thing in the middle of the eye, you know, that thing in the middle, what is that thing called? Iris?
Uh-huh.
You never see anything above it as far as when I'm looking at people's pictures. Me, I'm always, you never see the top of my eye. And when I'm high, you really ain't going to see it. You know what I mean? Where his eyes are like this, dude. He's on a good one, bro. He's on like.
Yeah, his eyes are open.
Wide open.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I don't know, because
I take it as, you know.
a drug. It's a different type of drug that he's on than possibly.
And I've known people who have been on that drug and have been the silent that are just like that, very silent.
Here's the door propped open. Right there. And it's propped open by a pot right here. And so that back door is propped open.
If we keep looking, someone's going to tell us there's a car on the lawn right there. No, keep looking. If you look right here, if you look right here at these left sides.
Man, I thought I had images of him like super close up, like his face. There it is.
Like, look at the iris. See how you can see the top of the iris? I have to work for you to see the top, over the top of my iris.
Right.
Me, normally I'm just like, you know. I don't know if they never. Yeah, it never blinks.
You know, I never noticed that if he ever blinks.
Never blinks, and then the thing over I just never see the iris on people. I look at my kids sometimes. I like you know, just normally your eyes just don't look like that. Maybe some people do though. That just shows you how much I know about it. You know, I don't know, but
I'm gonna watch this video. I want to see if he ever blinks because I've never noticed that. So you said that right now. I was like, you know what? You might be right. He never blinks. That's weird if he doesn't. Like,
he's on a good one.
We can't see it there.
And I don't know if this is even possible. Do they have prosthetic eyes?
I mean, one would make sense, but two?
Right. It's pretty nuts. Those prosthetics are pretty amazing. Yeah, he doesn't blink. He didn't even think about blinking. What are you talking about? He ain't even thinking about blinking yet. Now, see, look.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah. And you know, I think I know why he did that though. Is he put the plant behind it because someone said that the nest you pull them out. Is that true?
Yeah, you can pull them out with the nest.
So he would have had to know that was strong ivy or whatever it is that he grabbed from the ground, that he'd be able to pull it without it ripping. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing.
He's a landscaper, but.
Well, here's the thing though. If he's aware and he's watching the light blink or not blink, and he's trying to see if, you know, somebody's going to watch it or not. If he's aware of that, then he's probably aware of how to take these off. And it's not very difficult to just stick something back there. Plus, there's a reef on the side where he's approaching. That if he wanted to put just to block it, that reef would have done a better job. And if he wanted to damage it like the floodlights that he damaged, so he's accustomed and not, afraid of damaging things, there was a lot of rocks right next to those plants that he picked up. And so he had much better means of either concealing by covering or destroying than using these plants.
So does that point
I wonder if it's a message.
More amateur or more as a staging?
I think staging. I personally think it's staging. I wonder if it's because again, this is before well, obviously there's no blood on the ground, so Nancy hasn't left yet. He may not have come across the problem that was going to get him to come out that front door.
True.
And so this may have been some form of staging. I mean, it's flowers, and then he says she's buried with nature.
Was it before the buried with nature? Is that on one of the first two ransom notes, or is it
It's on the second one?
Okay.
It's on the one that says that she passed.
Gotcha. Just wanted to make sure in my head I had that right. Gotcha.
Yeah. So the first one was.
And then you're right. I actually watched that video a few times of Savannah and Nancy when they were in town doing, when they did the restaurant stuff. And sure enough, she was in nature. She was walking through the cactus area, all the desert.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's out there messing with, the desert and cactus. And then they put some flowers initially there. Again, this is before, in my opinion, that he's made entry into the house. I don't think he's made entry. I don't think he's come across the problem that he now has to go out the front door. And so, to me, I think that this was more so a message, which goes back to the fantasy thing.
Hey, but Daniel, looking back now, why wouldn't you go in the garage? If you finally were able to scope that out, why wouldn't you go in the garage, back in? Like, in other words, did they know that it would have been marked? In other words, because we now know it's a smart garage, but did they know?
Even if it is, it doesn't matter. I mean, he's in front of the camera, so it doesn't matter if it marks it or not. Now, if he was dropped off, it would have been smart for him to have taken Nancy and Nancy's car and gotten out of there. Rendezvous with somebody somewhere else, destroyed the car.
Yeah, that's an actual brilliant idea. I don't know why they didn't.
You know what I mean? So that tells me why, again, that kind of leads me to believe that it wasn't two people, because that would have been the easiest and smartest thing to do. It would have been like, all right, I got her, meet me over here, drop me off, meet me here, I'll rendezvous with you there. And, with her.
Keys. They were looking for keys for 41 minutes.
I could have. Yeah. They never showed up because there's no contact there, right? I mean, unless we believe that that's a radio inside of his pocket, it would have been impossible for them to contact each other without it being, searchable and to go back to him, especially if they use their phones.
Oh, phones, right. But two-way, it could have been for his ride, drop off and then for the pick me up, is that traceable?
A two-way radio? I don't know, to be honest with you. I would say it's probably a lot harder, but I don't know how well they can trace that frequency and if somebody was in that area, et cetera.
Because with the phones, with the geofencing, they would have,
Well, geofencing, from what I understand, his service isn't the greatest there, right?
Just in little parts, little pockets, not the whole thing, not the whole Catalina foothills. Just right when you go by the gym guy's house, and they have some kind of I don't know, they have like a signal jammer or something. I don't know, coming from their house. Because every time I go by, that's the only part that has any issues. Other than that,
yeah. So I would assume that if there is any, signal issues in that area, or if they don't have that many, which I doubt, they're so close to Tucson, I would assume there's a lot of towers in there.
There's a lot of rich neighbors too. They're not going. If their internet's going in and out, they're going to be complaining. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of outages there. They made it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but for phone service, it might be difficult if there's service problems there. It might be difficult to triangulate within a certain amount of space.
For the geofencing.
Yeah, the geofencing could be.
Someone who's good at electronic stuff get by. Someone who's good at
Well,
manipulating. Yeah, I'm just saying there's people that good at that too.
yeah. I mean, it's like in the Brian Koberger case, right? They use his locations, geofencing and stuff like that, and they were able to put him near the house like 12 times, and that was before that's before they got the arrest. That was for the probable cause affidavit, and that was just based off of like triangulation. Once they got his phone, they were able to put him at that house within 100 meters of the house on 23 occasions. And so that's going to be where things get a little bit more accurate, is once they find the right person.
23 times. So different times, like he was just sitting there and watching.
Pretty much, for sometimes over an hour within 100 meters of the house. But
the sheath got him, right? The DNA on the sheath, because he was on no national DNA database. So with the DNA that they found on the sheath, within 17 days they identified him. You know what I mean? So that's genetic genealogy. That's how it's different than the other, like how you said, the STRs and the SNPs.
Yeah. Well, there they had a clear indication of who the person is. So in the Brian Koberger case, there was a house with over 150 people that had gone in and out of that house over the last 24 hours prior to the murders, and because they had a house party the night before. And so you had a lot of people that were going in and out. There was a lot of DNA, a lot of trash that was left behind. And so what you did know was that the killer brought in the knife sheath, and that the killer's DNA, there was a single source DNA on the knife sheath that was only put there by somebody physically touching it. There was that much DNA on it. And so you had all this unknown DNA, which I'm assuming there's something similar like the Nancy Guthrie case. We're going to have a lot of unknown DNA that maybe in the Idaho case a lot more because of the parties, but you have all this unknown DNA, and then you have this unknown DNA on something that the killer brought in. So they focused strictly on that. In fact, they had found blood on a handrail on the first floor, but they had no evidence that ever put that the perpetrator went down to the first floor. They had a witness on the first floor named Bethany. She heard a firecracker and some loud noises, but nothing that was outside of her door. There was nothing that the guy never went down there. We also had a witness on the second floor. She never said that she heard or saw the perpetrator go down to the first floor. Everything was on the second and third floor. And so they put that on the back burner, the blood on the handrail on the first floor. And they focused solely on the knife sheath DNA because they knew that was touched by the perpetrator and brought in.
Makes sense.
I don't think they have that in the Nancy Guthrie case. They have, and it doesn't have to be a knife sheath. It could be saliva on the pot that's touched it. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I was trying to tell you with genetic genealogy, is that with Koberger in 17 days. Of course, they didn't arrest him right away, like you said, because they were still building the case. But I didn't know about the triangulate. I didn't know. In other words, they had to make sure everything was lined up, of course.
But once they got his name, it didn't take long to arrest him.
No,
they got his name December 19th, and they arrested him the 30th. So it was like 11 days, and part of that, I think, was...
You're more seasoned in the case. I just kind of from the outside looking in, of course.
Yeah. No, it's all good, my man. That was the one case that...
He's still a sicko. And then hopefully nobody else was involved, but for sure he did it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else was involved in that one either. I know a lot of people say that, he had only a few minutes, like 13 minutes or something like that to commit the crime.
Was it fantasy? What was his motive?
Oh, yeah.
Anger? Because he was so ugly? I mean, all the ugly people are going to be like holding up signs. Fuck Alex. Oh, sorry. He said ugly.
He
did it.
To me, it was more fantasy driven as well. I was able to predict a lot of things in that case. I predicted that he had an infatuation with American Psycho. I predicted that he had an infatuation with Ted Bundy, and that this was fantasy driven. And one of the things that told me that was he had a picture of him with the headphones and a button-up collar shirt with his thumb up, which was very similar to, Patrick Bateman. He had the thumb up, and then he also had an image with him and headphones walking around after he made his murder, did his murders. But what really sold it to me was his Tappa Talk. His Tappa Talk was that he wrote down that he wore a mask, and that he had no feelings. He was a sack of meat, and everybody else around him was one, and that he walks around looking at people like he's different, etc. Right? almost very similar to Patrick Bateman's soliloquy in American Psycho. American Psycho starts off with Patrick Bateman saying, I wear a mask, I have no feelings, all this other crap. And I was just like, man, that sounds too similar. I was like, I bet you this guy was looking for identity and he thought he saw himself or fantasized about being Patrick Bateman, who was portrayed as Ted Bundy. And one of the things that made me think about Ted Bundy right away, too, was his alibi. His alibi was that he was in the Wildwood Park, which was, there's this theory when it comes to Ted Bundy.
I love the Ted Bundy story. Yeah.
That his first victim, I can't remember, Page, something Page, was from WSU, and her body was found at Wildwood Park. And so I was like, this mother trucker said that his alibi during the time that these 4 people were murdered, that he obviously committed, he's saying that he was in the location where some people speculate that Ted Bundy may have started his murders.
Wow.
Now, if that's not paying homage to Ted Bundy and having some sort of unnatural
he was
connection there, then I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Joyce LePage, that was her name. Now, I know a lot of people are going to look at it and say, well, Ted Bundy, he didn't commit that crime. It doesn't matter if Ted Bundy committed that crime or not. It's whether or not Brian Koberger thought he committed that crime. I think he did. He was infatuated with him. In fact, that was, we found out close to the court date that he had pictures of Ted Bundy and Patrick Bateman in the movie American Psycho all over his phone. That was all over his phone, American Psycho. In fact, he told inmates that was his favorite movie. I predicted that before that all came. I also predicted that he was utilizing a broadcastify. Yeah.
He was using a broadcastify for what?
So,
as for a police scanner?
Yeah, he had a police scanner, and so there's a couple of things, right, that stuck out to me in the Brian Koberger case. One of them was that according to the PCA, that after the murders, he went one time back to the house, and then after that, he never went back. The one time that he went back to the house was before the murders were discovered and before law enforcement were out there. Now, he only lived 10 miles away, and most of the time when people commit those type of crimes, they return back to the scene. And this guy never did, right? And so he didn't but that one time. And then I started thinking to myself, what would make him so dang comfortable to go back that morning? You know, he never went back after that, but he went back and he knew somehow that law enforcement hadn't gotten there. Now, this guy was a PhD student in criminology. So he would have known that once this call would have came in, that
it's about to go right.
Yeah, there's going to be cameras there. Law enforcement going to be put up there, and if he drives by, he's going to be seen. So he can't do that then. Now, he can't search Idaho murders because if it's not found and you're searching that, you're going to get caught pretty quick. And so I thought initially maybe he just drove out there because it wasn't hitting the news. But the more I thought about it, I was like, man, this guy's super prepared. Just because it's not in the news doesn't mean that law enforcement isn't aware of it. You know, that scene could have been discovered, even if it wasn't discovered when he left Pullman, it could have been discovered by the time he got to Moscow. And so what made him comfortable enough to go back there? And I was like, he had to have a radio. He had to have a radio. I looked it up and I was like, who broadcasts 911 services in that area? And Whitcomb 911 broadcasted for Moscow and Pullman. And then I looked it up and Broadcastify broadcasted their 911 calls that night. And then, so I put it out there. I was like, I 100% believe that this guy used Broadcastify. And then after he pled guilty, about 8 months after I said this, it came out that he had downloaded Broadcastify the night of the murders about 6 hours before.
Wow. Yep.
I was like, I told you guys, it's the only way he was that comfortable to go back.
You think he was trying to go back to this for the sheath real quick? I mean, because he knew the cops maybe weren't there yet. Maybe he was like, let me go get that where the hell I put that sheath.
Well, that and I think curiosity got the best
of it. I got you. They didn't come yet. Let me just go drive by. It makes sense, you know.
That and like he turns his phone on 18 minutes after he leaves, right? Now, had he not done that, it would have made the case a lot harder to prove, even with the DNA on there.
Wow.
But he turns it on, and he's just 10 miles south of Moscow, or a few miles south of Moscow. The reason why I think he turned it on is because somebody saw him. Dylan sees him. He leaves. He's probably anticipating that she's calling 911. So he's getting on his phone to listen to the broadcast. And that's why he turns on his phone. And he's probably confused as to why 911 wasn't called right away. You know, because somebody saw him. I mean, they were confused about that.
Caesar.
Real quick, I want to say thank you to Misty Haynes, 885.
The Haynes twins. Yeah, we love the Haynes twins. They're awesome.
Coming in with $49.99. Praying for justice. And Nancy will be served. Everything is not only baffling, but makes absolutely no sense. Anyways, I got to lay down. I hope you all have a wonderful night and sleep well. You as well. Thank you so much for your donation. Thank you. And then One Pink and Bink 5 comes in. Who will Anthony Seth Burroughs? He is wanted for murder and he looks like him. He has a mole on his eye. He is a suspect, top 15 most wanted. Interesting.
Yeah, someone posted that. I saw that yesterday.
I have to check that out. And then Debbie Holcomb's 5,000 comes in with the newest membership. So, you know,
real quick,
I think that. Go ahead.
I wanted to jump on the Kohlberger thing. You helped me put together a couple of things right now. Is that being I didn't look into the Kohlberger case as much as you did, is that I know a lot about the Ted Bundy case, and he did go to a sorority and stab a bunch of girls. And it just, I didn't put those two together. Like, wow. So you were already looking at, he was obsessed with Ted Bundy and whatchamacallit?
Patrick Bateman.
Patrick Bateman, that's right.
Who is based off of Ted Bundy.
Right. That's why I was like, that's why I wanted to throw that out there before I forgot, because you made me, I was like,
yeah,
that's crazy. Yep.
Yeah, I even predicted that he was listening to Britney Spears, but that was more of a joke, and I just got that right by accident.
Was he?
He was.
Was he? Wow.
He was.
While he was doing it, he listens to Britney Spears?
No. Cellbrite was able to determine that he was listening to like Britney Spears' Criminal, a slow down version, several times after the murders. And there's an image of him with the thumbs up with headphones on. Weird. And I was like, I wonder if he's listening to Huey Lewis from, because Huey Lewis played, there was a lot of his songs in American Psycho, the movie American Psycho. So I was like, I wonder if he's listening to Huey Lewis. And then I go, you know what, guys, I don't know. For all I know, he's listening to Britney Spears, Not Yet a Woman. And then, then like a couple of weeks later, comes back, he's listening to Britney Spears. I was like, oh, snap, maybe I am psychic. Yeah. Whoa, somebody said that they met Ted Bundy and lived. Wow. That's interesting. That's crazy.
I mean, he's one of the only ones that, remember, he escaped 2 times and murdered again the second time. You guys remember? Because he escaped jail and he broke out of prison. And I think he murdered after the prison is when he did the sorority girls, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
I
think that was like in Florida, and I think he had killed some sorority in a lot of places. I think it was in Washington, Colorado, and Florida. Yeah. I think Florida was the last one. I think that's where he entered with also like a blunt force object, which in the Idaho case, they believe that something was used to strike Kaylee, like a blunt force object. May have been the bottom end of the K-bar knife, but there was something else that was used as well. Definitely so. Please ask the guest about Monk's theory regarding the exit using a dolly to throw off the timeline of a car usage. I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you mean like using a dolly to like go quite a bit of a distance? I think that would be unlikely. What do you think of somebody using either a dolly or a wheelchair to move Nancy more than a block away? Is it feasible in that neighborhood, in that road conditions, etc.?
I'm telling you, you can hear like a squirrel do a fart out there. You hear everything from the top of the hill. So like, I'm just saying, you're going to hear somebody rolling a dolly. Maybe wheelchair wouldn't be as loud, but what would be the efficiency of, you know what I mean? Like you said, either they walked her out or she was carried out. There's no trying to be comfortable, trying to be nice, because that person was not nice, whoever showed up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me get your Apple Watch. You know, they didn't care.
They didn't. So I know we're going over 2 hours already. I won't take too much more of your time.
We hope we make this connection. We can do this more often, man. Like I said, I invited him to come on mine, and then he's like, yeah, we can do this again. So, man, I like it, man. Good meeting you. Appreciate it.
I agree. Well, guys, go make sure you check out Criminal Network. This is his YouTube channel. He's got 24.6 subscribers. Let's get him up to 25 by going out there and subscribing to him. Subscribe here to the Drunk Turkey Show. Thank you for all the new members and subscribers. I also have another channel called Married to the Hobby, and we do a little bit of different stuff, everything from Pokemon rips to going out to Fredericksburg, Texas, checking cars, everything.
Mix it up.
Yeah, I try to mix it up. It's our hobby channel, so
but there's no rules, man. So I love it, man. That's cool.
I did too. I mean, I love my car. It's a 1994 3000 GT VR4 twin turbo all-wheel drive, and that thing can boogie, man. I've gotten pulled over a couple times.
And when I start hearing all those numbers, I'm like, I don't know what it means, but it sounds fast.
It's got about, for a car that's 30 years old, it's probably pushing just shy of 500 wheel horsepower. It can move, all-wheel drive.
Just 500, huh?
Just shy. Go check it out. You can hear my car move, and you'll hear the turbo spooling.
That's tight,
I got some new ones, and but yeah, well, I really enjoyed this, Alex. It was a good conversation, and I thought we meshed well. So I really do hope we can do this again in the future.
Likewise, yeah. Let's find answers for Nancy, man, and we're in touch with each other now. We got numbers. We're friends now, so let's get this going, man. Let's find answers. And once again, man, I appreciate the invite. I'm honored, man. I appreciate it very much. And shout out to all your army, whatever you call your people, the drunk turkey people, the drunk turkeys. Shout out to the drunk turkeys.
You know it. Well, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I'll be on tomorrow night with Dr. Bona, and then I have Carrie Don's world-renowned forensic psychologist on Saturday, and then Monks on Wednesday night. So you don't want to miss all those. So make sure you subscribe, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out, y'all.